Hi, I'm Kimberly Clark, Deputy Chief Information Officer at Arizona State University. Thank you for joining us for Data Privacy Day. Today, we're going to have a very interesting discussion with interesting panelists. And why are we doing that? Well, data privacy is really important as we get into this ever more connected world. There is so much information available, and that includes at universities. Universities handle a vast amount of data. There's student records, there's financial records, there's critical research data, and it's important that we protect it all. So today we're going to dive into a conversation where we discuss data privacy issues that commonly face academic institutions, and we're going to explore some strategies that leaders are implementing to keep our data safe. So I'm super excited to introduce our panelists to you as we have this Arizona Tri-University discussion here. So we have Timothy Schwab, who is with University of Arizona, and he's the Chief Information Security Officer. We also have Nathan Corwin, who is Executive Director of Cybersecurity at Arizona State University. And we have Chris Graver at Northern Arizona University, who is the Director of Information Security, and he wears a second hat as well as the Information Security Officer. Institutions, they handle a massive amount of data. We mentioned it earlier, student records, research data, financial data. What are some of the biggest challenges that you have encountered in balancing data privacy as well as accessibility for students, staff, and faculty?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. Definitely a lot of challenges, no doubt. But I think you can kind of wrap it up around awareness. It's really a matter of having people be aware of the type of data that they're dealing with, and the policies that the university has around the use of that data is extremely important. So a couple of things that we do around that is awareness training, having training around the types of data and the classifications of the types of data, and so that people truly do understand what is more private in nature and what is not. Being cautious of third-party vendors is also something that is extremely important. We give a lot of data to third-party vendors, whether they're up in the cloud or on-premise, and making sure that that data is not exposed in an inappropriate manner is very, very important.
Talk just a little bit more about cultural resistance. How can we get, folks to adopt technology?
Sure. Yeah, I really think it's just a matter of helping ease their thinking around the technology, and that it's here to help them and not hurt them. It shouldn't be something that they're afraid of using, but it should be something that they're cautious of.
Mm-hmm.
I've in other times I've spoken, I've almost compared it to fire. It can be used for good, it can be used for bad. So you really have to take a look at what the use of that is for, and then just be aware of that and cautious of that as you're sharing information.
Remote learning is growing, right? All of three of these universities have goals around, remote learning. Cloud adoption is increasing. Everybody wants to take everything to, the cloud. We're using a lot more third-party tools in higher education, right? When we make the decision of build versus buy, sometimes we decide to buy. So how do you ensure, as you're making your decisions, that these platforms, that they align with the institution's data privacy policies, right? And that they also comply with legal standards as those evolve?
Well, at ASU, we really ground our data stewardship mission in our goal of principled innovation. And, supporting the ASU charter, we really advance a framework to ensure that we are conducting rigorous assessment of all of those tools to ensure that they're supporting our values, our standards, and that going forward, whether we're talking cloud services or AI or third-party tools, that those are that they have security practices in alignment with industry standards, emerging regulatory frameworks, and that guiding principle of digital trust for us, where our community needs to be able to trust those tools, and we need to be transparent with that community around how we're using the data that goes into them. So that rigorous assessment that we conduct is really a shared responsibility across the entire ASU public enterprise. The cybersecurity teams can't do that alone. There are, any number of tools being acquired on any given day across the ASU public enterprise, and we rely on collaboration with students, faculty, staff across the institution to assist us in highlighting the incoming tools, making sure that rigorous assessment does take place. And then, there is the other part of our practice, which, Tim already referred to, where we have to provide our community with training to understand their role in keeping their data secure, so that everyone has the opportunity, at least annually per our cybersecurity awareness training requirements, to get updated on what are the emerging trends, what are the areas where they have responsibilities in securing that data. But it really does, ultimately come down to our guiding principle is, that digital trust in support of the ASU charter, and everyone has a role to play in that. But assessing those tools to make sure that your standards and your values are actually respected by them is key.
So you mentioned transparency. How do you make it transparent to all of our constituents how their data is being used?
I think that's the biggest challenge for us going forward, is how to, give our community assurance that their data is being used as they would expect it to be, without, peppering them with a series of, every time you access something, getting some kind of pop-up that tells you this data is going to be used for this, or this data is going to be used for that. So that's a core challenge that I'm not sure that we have, a thorough answer to just yet. There's been, in our historical practice, in information technology and academia, it's been, everything's kind of treated the same because it's all student records. And I think, that isn't necessarily what a student would expect in the current day. This is, something where I think really working with our community to understand what level of transparency they want when it comes to different tools is hard for us.
Well, I was just going through my mind, just governance, governance committees, and the importance of having the right people in the room hearing the same thing at the right time and weighing in on some of those conversations. I just think that is a way of, what Nate was talking about and what you were asking, of getting people aware of that and on a common page.
Phishing, it's gotten very sophisticated, very, very tricky, right? Lots of people, falling for it. So when you think about all of the data breaches that have happened, especially in higher education, with phishing being on the rise and how sophisticated, right, the threat and bad actors have become, what are some of the strategies that you're using, whether it's for, privacy awareness or reducing human error, just, keeping the environment safe?
Yeah, I think like both Tim and Nate said, this security is everybody's business. We need everyone's assistance. It's not something, just our information security team can take on, but something we need the help from the whole community to do. I think we kind of approach it from three angles. One is the training angle, technology angle, and a culture angle. And so on the training side, some of kind of the big three that we're looking at are the awareness training that Tim spoke about. General information about what threats are out there, keeping people up to date, just giving them the information so they can be safer, make good decisions with data or emails that come in and things of that nature. The second we've had some success with is interactive learning, and we've mainly accomplished that through phishing simulations. And so we'll send out phishing occasionally to our community. If someone clicks it or replies to the message, things of that nature, then we'll follow up with them with a little short interactive training in the moment of, we realize you made a mistake, kind of walk them through what they did wrong next time. What could they point out? What warning signs were there? so maybe they don't make that mistake again. And then the third one is kind of around like role-specific training. So, people who work with FERPA data are required to take FERPA training and be aware of those regulations. The same with, PCI or with GLBA and other compliance regulations, specific training for those users. So really in their role, they understand how that sensitive data needs to be handled above and beyond the normal things. From the technology side, multi-factor authentication is kind of, our most successful tool on that side to protect that we know who's coming in, who's attempting to access data, who's attempting to use a system. It gives us that verification of who they are. It's not perfect, but it's by far the most successful tool we have and probably the easiest to implement from that perspective. Recently, we rolled out external email flags on emails. So in the mail client, our users can see if emails are coming from outside the institution. It's not perfect, but it's just one more flag and one more tool for them to look at and hopefully avoid phishing. And then the third is, I guess, our EDR, our endpoint detection and response software, really allows us to see what's happening on our endpoints within the institution. So if there's malware, if there's strange activity, that will often alert us and allow us to stop it quickly and then take action on that. And then from the culture side, that's probably the biggest challenge. I think both of you guys talked about that, but we've had our most luck probably getting our leadership involved. The leadership at NAU has been very supportive of our security program. So getting the message to them, getting them on board and letting them, pass that message down through their organizations and really build the culture. It's much easier for them to get their staff on board than to get an email from me, explaining a threat, which no one really wants to read probably. But then it's just challenging of getting everyone to know policy, getting everyone to understand how they're supposed to handle data. It's difficult when you have, thousands and thousands of employees and thousands of student employees who might not be in a job very long, and their priority is, their education, and the job is, kind of secondary a lot of times. And so, yeah, that's just a challenge. And we do the best we can, and that awareness and education is probably the most successful thing there.
So we all have to do the best we can when it comes to data privacy. And there's a couple of ways that we can do that. One, do us all a favor and complete your annual information security training. Two, we need leaders to be right up there in the forefront, understanding that it is worth making an investment, in cybersecurity, information security, as well as data privacy. And three, we are all the first line of defense for our institutions. Thank you for joining us on this Data Privacy Day.